Hello, I'm John. Welcome back. So today I'm going to be talking about my pile of possibilities for Dr. No-vember. So Dr. No-vember is an event that was created by Mark from the channel Book Time with Elvis, and it celebrates espionage fiction, Cold War, World War II. I believe Mark said any espionage from any period in time would be just fine. So I thought that I would get together some books here, my own sort of TBR, mostly a pile of possibilities, but there is one book, perhaps two, that I want to get through. And there is one, so as all intelligence agencies sometimes have to admit, there is sometimes a little bit of shady goings on, a little bit of misconduct. And so I've actually already read one of the books that I put on my TBR, and so I will be showing it, but I will talk about it more in depth, and I don't think that Mark is going to fly over and beat me up or anything else, so it should be all right there to go ahead and include it with that caveat. But I'm just going to get into it, and I guess I'll talk about the one I've already read first, but I'll be doing a more in-depth video about it later on. It is Anna Funder's Stasi-Land. So this is about her time living in East Germany and in East Berlin after the fall of the Berlin Wall, I believe in 1996. And so the Stasi was this sort of internal spy network that kept tabs on East German citizens and whose job was to keep them in the country and keep them quiet and deal with them in some very strange, upsetting, and very invasive ways. It is perhaps the most, well, I don't know about now because we have North Korea, but at the time it was sort of the most advanced surveillance network in the world. So this was a really, really good read, and I'm looking forward to talking about this. And like I said, I did read it in the last couple of days, though, so I just couldn't wait. So after that, we'll get into a couple of possibilities here. Here is Day of Judgment by Jack Higgins, and he wrote The Eagle Has Landed, which I read part of that. I didn't read the whole book, and many other spy action novels over the years. And let's see, we'll just see what this one is about here. June 26, 1963. JFK's triumphal visit to divided Berlin is about to trigger catastrophe for the free world. East German intelligence, with the aid of a renegade American, has set a diabolical snare. And now only a desperate team of Allied operatives, 6 monks, an American priest, a British major, and a young woman doctor who has played into communist hands, can save the West from a terrifying day of judgment. So this may skirt espionage just a little bit, but it does have the East German intelligence, and I suppose that's the Stasi. So this came out in 1979. You can tell by the back there it's a little bit dated, but I'm kind of looking forward to this. It's got this kind of muddy image there of the Berlin Wall and a couple of people escaping from it. It's not very, it's a little not very well detailed. But anyway, so next comes a book that I believe Alan from Alan's Reads, one of the co-hosts of Dr. No-vember, is going to read. And I should have been smart and listed all the co-hosts at the beginning of this video. I can remember a few. I believe Steve Donahue, Randy Ray, the literate Texan, Jim from Mystery and Mayhem, I believe Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads, and I'm sure there are more. I know there are more, and I'll list them all in the description. And you can tell I wouldn't be very good at intelligence work because I have a terrible memory. But the book is The Secret Ways by Alistair MacLean. And if I remember correctly, Alan has the different titled book than this one. I don't know if it'll tell me what the original title was. No, it doesn't. Well, that's too bad. But I'll read the back here. Winters are silent in Budapest, silent and dark, and behind some door in some ancient street, Harold Jennings, the brilliant British scientist, sat rehearsing a speech denouncing his own country. The communists intended to use Jennings' speech as the propaganda coup of the decade. The British were equally determined that it should never be delivered. Michael Reynolds, Britain's top agent, was given the impossible assignment: enter Hungary, kidnap Dr. Jennings, and return him to the free world. And this, Reynolds decided, was roughly like trying to find an invisible needle in a burning haystack. So this is from 1959, and Alan and I are both big fans of Alistair MacLean's, and I haven't read anything by Alistair MacLean, I believe, since last year when I read I Station Zebra, and so I'm looking forward to that. I've said before that I like Alistair MacLean's books so much that I almost won't let myself read them because I'm rather afraid of not having any more to read. And I know how that sounds, but it is true. And every time I read one, the stack, I have quite a few, the stack gets a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller, you know. And so the next is by John le Carré. And this is about, as far as I can tell, it's about Berlin. There's no summary on the back or anything like that, but it is The Looking Glass War. And I believe this takes place in Berlin, and if I remember right, John le Carré in real life was actually a British agent in Berlin during the Cold War, and he was running agents, and I believe his cover was blown. I don't know a lot about the life of John le Carré, and I'd love to read. There's a biography of him that I've heard of several times. It's supposed to be really good. I've read several of his books, and I can't always say that I have enjoyed them, to be completely honest, because I think that le Carré really understood something pivotal about espionage, about the way that espionage works, which is that you are always trying to discover your enemy's weakness, and even your allies' weakness, and even your friends' weaknesses, in order to exploit them for your own benefit and for the benefit of your agency and your country. And so you always have to be looking for thumbscrews that you can twist, or things that you can blackmail people for, or things that you can use. Maybe you can tempt their vanity, or you can tempt their greed or their lust. And I believe that le Carré really understood that very well, and so his novels have a tendency to have this undercurrent of bleak despair and unpleasantness. And, you know, it being November now, getting dark early and getting gray and wet. It's raining right now, actually, and kind of chilly. It can be slightly depressing to read John le Carré, and that's why I put two of his books on my list. So the only book that I actually am pledging to get into and to get through in November is the one in my hand. And the reason I say that is because I just don't react well to TBRs. I do not react well to having a schedule on my reading at all. But this is a book that I bought last year, and I've been wanting to reread it. It is another le Carré book, novel, and it is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which I first read about a decade ago when I was in my early 20s. I'd seen the Gary Oldman movie several times. I really like that movie. I still do. And I've seen the Alec Guinness miniseries, and I was really, you know, it's kind of funny. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but George Smiley is fighting. He works for the circus, which is like British intelligence, and he's really high up. Like, he sits at the top level table, and he is going against this Soviet spy named Carla. And in the Alec Guinness version, so there's a scene where years before, George Smiley and Carla had met in a prison, I believe in Calcutta. And when they bring Carla in, so in the Gary Oldman version, you don't see Carla ever, but in the Alec Guinness version from the 70s, they bring Carla in. And it took me about 3 or 4 minutes, actually, maybe not that long, but quite a while to go, hey, I know that guy. But I was looking at him, and I was like, man, he looks familiar. And I just couldn't place him. He had this beard and everything. But that was a lot of fun because I absolutely did not expect that actor in that role. But he pulled it off very, very well. And I won't tell you who it is. You go find out on your own. But anyway, so Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is about George Smiley and Control. So Control is like the head boss, and he goes by Control. So you don't ever learn his actual name or anything. He's supposed to be very secret, of course. And Control has become convinced that there is a mole sitting around the big table, right? That one of the top operatives is a mole, one of the people that he sees and talks to every day, including George Smiley. And this is, so Control is pushed out. There is an operation going on where the information just seems too good. And Control has his feelings about it. He has this intuition that something is not right. And so he sends an agent named Jim Prideaux to Hungary. Things go very bad. And then Control and Smiley are pushed out. Well, Control brings Smiley out with him. And so this is about Smiley, who is actually in retirement, having to come back and figure out who the mole is. And all the while, everybody else is still suspicious of who it is. Smiley knows that it's not himself, but other people don't know and don't believe that there is a mole at all. Now, as you can tell from that description, I have never quite understood this book, and that's why I want to go back and read it. I really didn't understand it when I was in my early 20s. I think most of it went completely over my head, and that's why I want to return to this book and to the whole Carla trilogy. So there are 3 books: Tinker Tailor, Soldier Spy, The Honorable Schoolboy, and Smiley's People. And they're all quite big. The other 2 are bigger than this one. This is 360 some odd pages. Yeah, 368 pages. I'm really looking forward to getting back into this. And so the next one is a book that I started several years ago. It's actually a nonfiction book. And I made it about 200 pages in. And I just dropped it. I'm not really sure why. But I was enjoying it, and I just moved on to something else. But it is C by Anthony Cave Brown. This is the secret life of Sir Stuart Mingus, spy master to Winston Churchill. So, just like it says there, here, we'll read the back. One man alone dictated the course of events in the World War II intelligence game. A more mysterious, more influential, and more devious spy master than even Allen Dulles, Wild Bill Donovan, or Admiral Wilhelm Canaris. He was the man fashioned by Ian Fleming into M and by John le Carré into Control. His name, Stuart Graham Mingus. As Chief of British Secret Intelligence Service, C delivered to Churchill the greatest achievement in modern intelligence history, Ultra, which enabled SIS to read virtually all crucial wireless signals within the German High Command. He struggled bitterly with Wild Bill Donovan, head of OSS, for supremacy over all Allied intelligence, and he was betrayed by his hand-picked successor, Kim Philby, who, with Guy Burgess and Donald MacLean, was discovered to be a Soviet double agent. Anthony Cave Brown resurrects the legend of C to write the first and definitive biography of Britain's greatest spy master. The only author ever to interview extensively the mysterious and reclusive Mingus, Brown has exhaustively researched and brilliantly captured the epic story, the last great defender of the British Empire. So I want to finish that. And I don't know if you can tell, this is a sticker from the 80s from Joseph Beth in Lexington, which is pretty cool because I used to go there all the time. I don't anymore because I just never find anything. You know, I'm not drawn to new books, and even the books on clearance don't really speak to me. But I spent hours and hours and hours there when I was a kid. It's got this big, you walk in and it's open, and it's got this big, like, I guess you'd call it a rotunda or something. It's very neat. And at night you could sit on the benches, and the wall is all glass, and it comes out like this, you know, and you could sit there, and there's like a pond behind it and a fountain, and It was really nice. It was a really wonderful place to be when I was young. It's kind of like what I hoped heaven would be like, I guess. I don't quite feel that way about it since they remodeled about 10 years ago. I liked it much better the way it was before. Anyway, that's some really like niche local stuff. But anyway, I loved that place. So that little sticker, that means something to me. So that is my little pile of possibilities with my one certainty. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I took part last year, but between not being very good with TBRs and an illness that I got towards the middle of the month, I really didn't get very far into it. I think that I only read 2 books last year for Dr. No-vember. But I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you will join in. All you have to do is read one book about espionage, one fiction book about espionage, fiction book, one novel, a collection of short stories, which my favorite collection of short stories is, for espionage short stories, is Michael Gilbert's Mr. Calder and Mr. Barron's. I was really, really blown away by that collection, and I've been recommending it to people. But I think I may also read I believe the war memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, because if I remember right, there are a few espionage stories in the war memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, a set of stories that Arthur Conan Doyle wrote during the First World War. I'm going to have to check into that. But anyway, I'm rambling now, and as I tend to do, I am, you know, if you'd let me ramble, we'd have 45-minute videos each time. But anyway, so that is my TBR and pile of possibilities for Dr. No-vember. And I do hope that you will join us, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I actually couldn't wait, so I already read the one. But anyway, I want to thank you for joining me here today, and please feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.